Hello, and welcome to episode 239 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. You are hearing a little bit different voice for this episode. It is Brian Weigel sitting in the host chair this great weekend, this what was supposed to be a really snowy night and didn't turn out to be. And we're going to have some more news that didn't turn out to be here very soon. So very excited to have you guys here on a special Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Join me with a special cast. We got some long timers and a new timer, but we'll start out with Mr. I don't know, people call him our triplet, Clay Winstead. How you doing, pal?
It's dinner time. I'm ready to eat.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, what did you say?
I have been waiting to use that pun for a very long time, so thank you for obliging me.
It's an average execution, pal.
Yeah, if I'm laughing, that's all that matters, right?
Joining us as well. I feel like it's been a long absence, but we got Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, Mr. PTO. How we doing, pal?
It's been a long time. I had to wait till some actual news was going down before I would show back up. And then, of course, you see who's not here the moment I get back. Nick Subelering, where are you at, man?
I think he was working on his Peloton. He was talking about his data analytics stats for Peloton. He's kind of a little weird, but I guess he's doing that now.
Yeah, it's real cute when we all go through these phases, right? I had
What's his XG on that?
That is good. Well, we're glad to have you here, Boston. Glad to be back. And, of course, Clay.
Oh!
We got the main man, Bill Wolf, joining us for this episode. No cool soundboard, but we got you, pal.
No, it's all great. Clay's awesome. He's as good as they get, man. I'm still waiting for Boston to throw some crack at me. It's been a while since he and I have been on a show together, and usually he's got something just waiting in the wings. So at some point, there'll be a old man joke or something for me. But here we go.
I mean, you got a pretty easy, if you guys are just, of course, listening to this the day after in the car, you would see Mr. Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, Mr. PTO hasn't shaved in like a month and a half. So we got that going for him. So you can always go there.
I'm a changed man, Bill. It's 2021 now.
That's right. All peace and harmony now, right?
Also,
Coming together.
There we go.
Us against the virus.
Well, hopefully we're almost done there. Well, guys, as I said, we have a great show planned out for you. Joining us momentarily will be Laura Failer of QueenCityPress.net to discuss the evening's breaking news. Going to discuss some updates to Pity Martinez. We'll also discuss the reports about Luciano Costa coming from Club Atlas, and then we're going to talk about changes in the league. And then we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting, I think, about Frankie Amaya. Pull up your favorite bourbon. That'll be in the second half of the show, favorite beer, whatever you got. And we're just going to get stuff off our chest for Frankie Amaya. So, guys, without further ado, let's bring in the all-star of the show, Laura Failer of QueenCityPress.net. How we doing, Laurel?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, thank you for joining us very late in this evening. You had a piece of breaking news that came out about 30 minutes before our show about Pity Martinez. Of course, Cincinnati Soccer Talk about a week and a half ago put an initial report out there, followed with Queen City Press and a couple other outlets about Pity coming to FC Cincinnati, or at least the attempt to get Pity to FC Cincinnati, and it looks like it's kind of slipping away.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation for sure, because like you mentioned, I was one of the reporters that confirmed CST's report on PD coming, or at least being close to coming, or an agreement being in place. And I was trying to get an update once the Acosta news came out to figure out, is it possible to do both? Is this one or the other? What's going on? And my sources kind of went quiet on it. So I figured maybe I needed to check with the other side. PD had posted on social media that he was happy with his club in Saudi Arabia. And so I finally got in touch with his agent today, and yeah, he flat out denied it, said that it's not possible. It's not true. I kept kind of pressing. I asked if, did FC Cincinnati at least offer? And he said no. So something is definitely going on there, because we had Gerard Niekamp talking about the allocation spot last week. So there's definitely some kind of interest, at least, and they were moving forward on it. And I don't know what happened on PD's part, or something interesting or crazy is going on there.
Yeah, you're talking about crazy, and people who are listening the first time don't know much about PD's club situation. He's at Al Nassr, who recently has been slapped down with a 3-window transfer ban by FIFA for not paying. I believe
Galatasaray.
For a transfer, and we don't know what's all tied up in there. Of course, you have that in your story. If you guys haven't read it, go to queencitypress.net. I believe you have a subscribe function. That'd be wonderful. You get a lot of great breaking news there. Can you tell us a little bit about the club and what why we might not be getting the whole picture?
Well, it's silly season. So, you hear one thing from one side and another thing from the other side. My initial thought here was that, either something broke down in the discussions and now PD doesn't want it out there that he was trying to make a move. His club is on the rise aside from their financial struggles right now. They've been playing well. They won 6 of their last 9 games. And he's starting to actually make an impact. So, maybe his thoughts changed. There had also been reports that he wasn't getting paid. And I don't know if that's been resolved. So maybe something changed there. It could have just fallen through on FC Cincinnati's part where they couldn't get the trade that they needed to get that top allocation spot. So there's a lot of things that could have happened here. And I'm not sure, if we'll find out the whole story. If it happens, then it happens. If not, maybe we'll find out more the next time we talk to Gerard with a new player signing.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling somebody that earlier today that when you report on things like CST's done that are not done and then they fall through, the unfortunate thing is it's so hard to sometimes go back and figure out exactly why. Everybody wants resolution, especially if Acosta, for example, falls through as well. Then you have 2 players in a row and people want to know why. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, obviously. I'm just saying could, theoretically. And so, yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Sometimes we get a happy bow. Sometimes we don't get the bow till 2 years from now when everybody's comfortable talking about it.
Well, there's all kinds of players that they're targeting throughout this whole offseason that we probably haven't even heard anything about that didn't work out. And so this is one that we got wind of, and whether it happens or not, I don't know what we're going to find out, but there could be a number of things that happened here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Real quick, I don't know if you guys have anything else about Pity, but I did love a story you had on queencitypress.net this past week about Brenner, and it was a guest analysis of Brenner. Yeah.
Yes. I had let's see, he kind of does some, his name is Guillermo. I'm going to say his name wrong, but it's Guillermo Mira. He does a lot of tactical analysis on Sao Paulo. I'm going to say that wrong too. But I thought that was pretty neat. He talked a lot about Brenner and just how he played there and how they utilized him. He reiterated what the guy you guys had on your show last week talked about, how he's really good in a 2-striker setup. So I think that was pretty interesting to hear that side of it too, and just wondering how FC Cincinnati could possibly use him. Mm-hmm. In that role, especially, if they go back to a 3-5-2, we need another center back, which they keep saying.
Yeah. There's a lot to happen. Any other kind of thoughts on the offseason before we let you get out of here?
Well, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that everyone was kind of all sad on FC Cincinnati and wanting them to make some moves, and now we've got all these big names. I think it's exciting for the fans. Hopefully we see some deals come across the finish line with the preseason. They're set to report in a couple weeks, so I know Gerard wants to get some of those players. I know he said for the preseason. I think he means at least for much of the preseason. I don't think at this point it's going to be possible to get everyone in right for the start. Mm-hmm. But I think that'll be important if they can get some signings done here pretty soon and move forward with the preseason, getting those guys in.
Awesome. Well, Laurel, we definitely appreciate your time coming on last second this evening. And guys, if you're out there wanting to get more information about FC Cincinnati, there's so many different ways and so many different outlets that cover the club. And Laurel is tremendous at what she does. Go to queencitypress.net. subscribe, follow her stuff on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle, Laurel?
It's just my name, so Laurel Failer. You guys, P as in Paul, F as in Frank, AHLER. And yeah, I'm always happy to answer questions on there. My DMs are open, so reach out anytime.
All right. Well, Laurel, thank you so much, and you have a good evening.
Thank you.
Oop, cut her off there. That was Laurel Failer of QueenCityPress.net. I'm no Nick Superling here. I'm no.
That was brutal, man.
No, great. I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yikes. Just
Sorry.
shoving her out the door.
Are you bitter, Brian, that she busted our story wide
Shush. Shush.
Before we move on,
I'm no Nick Superling.
it's important to note how truly great her stuff is for only, I think, $3 or $5 a month. I can't remember the subscription notices. One of the best Patreons I've subscribed to, particularly if you want to be up to the snuff on FC Cincinnati. She's got great sourcing, great stories. So I just support your local journalists. We do a lot. I mean, she's a little higher up on the echelon than I might be per se, but she definitely puts in a lot of time, and she's worth every penny. So
follow through, right? I mean, tracks it all the way down to the agent, even though she helped report the story. All the way to conclusion. I mean, that's a quality journalist. I mean, we have some. We've got Jeff Wallner. We've got guys like that. But that's a reason right there to subscribe to her Patreon.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, as what Laurel said, I'm not sure if we'll ever find out the whole picture. I'm sure if you got Brad or one of us drunk one night at one of these pregame bars, we'll give you a little bit of inside information. But that's just it's been an interesting couple weeks, to say the least. With PT Martinez. So on to target number 3, I guess we'll say, Luciano Costa. So this past Wednesday, Pablo Maurer of The Athletic, I believe as well as Sam Stejskal, reported that FC Cincinnati is reported to be in negotiations with former DC United playmaker Luciano Costa. He is now at Atlas in Guadalajara in Liga MX, and apparently it's close. I guess Maurer said that it's kind of up on essentially DC United and FC Cincinnati agreeing on a fee to get his rights as Acosta left to Liga MX from DC United as a free agent. They were still able to retain his rights, and what his report said, it could be between 500,000 GAM to 1 million GAM, which that's a big chunk of change.
Pretty penny.
Yeah, of course that can be spread out, but you never know how it's going to go. So, as kind of what's been reported is that he makes $2 million, and which would probably put him in the DP range. Could maybe they pick up some of his contract, like was it Boca did with Pavone out in LA, or some other people to maybe get that to a TAM level contract, but. Yeah, it seems that this is an option. Of course, we've been kind of waiting to see if this is going to go across the finish line. It hasn't yet, but there's still time to be played. So, guys, let's get your initial reactions. Bill Wolf, when you saw this coming out, what was your thought on the player?
Well, first off, just from a timing standpoint, right? This fell right on the heels of Brenner and then Pitti and then literally. Acosta right behind it. So at some level, it was less about the player and more just this stunned sense of, holy cow, FC Cincinnati's been so quiet for so long, which I do think has actually been a little unfair. We've accused them of being quiet, but Papu was in there, Lincoln was in there. So we've had some big names that we've been pursuing. We just haven't drawn any across the finish line. But then to have 3 just back to back to back and literally have one come through, has been a bit of a whirlwind for us. But I think the initial question, of course, is where does he fit in? If PD's going to come, do we do Acosta? Is this, the timing almost suggested maybe the allocation thing didn't happen and maybe they were going for plan C because we got Papu's A or whatever. But yeah, it's one of those deals where I think he's a good player. I think he maybe has some upside from his age a little bit, but maybe a little bit less flexibility. I mean, I think he's basically a 10, which is what we need, but then we're not going to have the option to move him other places. He's pretty much a central attacking midfielder. So, I think he's good. I mean, if you look at price tags, comparing him to some of the other ones, he's lower than the other two, A and B that we've looked at. At the same side, maybe you get what you pay for, but maybe we're not also overpaying either, right? So sometimes those really big price tags, you don't really get what you pay for either, right? You're only worth so much, right? I mean, but no, I think it's a good signing. I think it's a desperately needed signing on our part. We have to get a 10. And I think, putting our money where our mouth is, we brought in Brenner. Lacadia didn't work last year. I think there's some issues on Lacadia, but we didn't give him much service. If we don't sign this 10, if we don't find a player like Acosta or whoever, then we spent a lot of money on Brenner and Lacadia that we're not going to get any bang for the buck on. I know that was long-winded, but anyway, go ahead.
It's all right. He's played 4 seasons at 4 full seasons at DC United. I think he averaged had played in 30 games in each of those 4 seasons, which is great considering with the amount of games we're going to have in such a condensed period of time. Now Clay, this guy has 24 goals and 35 assists in his Major League Soccer career, which aren't earth-shattering numbers, and the majority of those was just in 1 season. Does that worry you at all?
No. I mean, it's better than what Pitti did in Atlanta under a Dutch coach. So, beggars can't be choosers. I'll take whatever attacking number 10 I can get my hands on.
Team De Jong.
Well, yes, in that case, I choose to let him go. But if I was having to pick between the two, I think he has the better track record in MLS. At least in my mind, I heard Luciano Costa was going to be, looked at. And the first thing I think of is that obviously Wayne Rooney's halfway run down the field, the tackle, the dribble back up, the last second Hail Mary cross. Acosta was the one on the other end of that cross. He was the one who headed in that ball. So you think of that wonderful moment in their partnership, and that ability is there. Whether he can strike up that kind of relationship with a Locadia or a Brenner or a Kubo, that's really enticing. It's not Pozzelo, it's not peak Giovinco or something, but I mean, what was our best number 10 last season? Was it Frankie Amaya? And he had no assists last season. We'll get into that. So yeah, I mean, I'd be thrilled. Like I said, I think he's been more productive than Pitti ever was at Atlanta. So if that's our plan C that works out, I'm not going to complain.
Foreshadowing. Acosta, I like the MLS experience. We saw it with Lacadia. You see it a lot in Major League Soccer. Unless their name is Zlatan, international signings come in and they can struggle with the physicality of the league. And I've been saying and beating on the drum that if Lucas stays, this second year we will see a lot more out of him because he's been here, he's done that. That is by far the best thing about Acosta. Even Pitti coming back, I feel like he would have a much better second season when that was still on the table. But now that we're only talking about Acosta, the one thing that drives me absolutely crazy about this, and I'm going to go to kind of the negative side of it, is that we are going to pay, unfortunately, to get the deal done, probably more than we should, to DC United, a team in the Eastern Conference, the team that we will play at least twice a year, and you're just handing them a big pile of gam and tam to make their team better with. Man, I wish it was somebody, in the Western Conference or somebody that we don't see all the time. And if COVID rules are in place, we could see DC more than we even want to. So that's the one thing that gives me pause about this deal is we will be improving another close by team.
Yeah. And honestly, just seeing how the time has gone with this, originally reported Wednesday, Monday it's gone, hasn't crossed the finish line yet. So we'll kind of see what happens. Gerard in his press conference for this past week admitted that they're still looking for that allocation spot. So, there could be somebody else out there, whether, it's a 10 or a winger or somebody that they're trying to get. So I do feel that the ambition that they're showing, while, okay, yeah, I might not have the posh of a Zalarayan coming in, but I mean, it's still a good player coming in from a good league. And I think you would see a dramatic change with this signing. And the thing I love about him, every year he's played in this league, he's always been towards the top 5-10% of like guys moving the ball to the attacking third and into the penalty box. So we need somebody.
Passes.
Yes, thank you. There you go, Clay. So if we can get a guy that can keep doing that and get the ball to Brenner, get the ball to Loca or Calvin Harris or whoever we get the ball to.
Barriel.
Barriel, exactly. God, that's the most underrated player this offseason, by the way. So yeah, I mean, linking the 6 and the 8 and going forward. So if we keep pushing at it, I think the FO's in the right direction with who they've been linked to so far.
My 2 cents though,
Sure.
If you're an FC Cincinnati fan, don't hype this one up too much, because I feel like the story came out of DC, and the skeptic in me, and I have no proof whatsoever to back this up, but the skeptic in me, DC really wants this to happen. They probably, he won't play for them, most likely. This is the team that denied his transfer. They have an asset they can't use. And they would love to just mark up the price and get free money. So, I think that this story is coming out of DC for a reason. I think that they really, really want to take our GAM TAM and all the GAMs, exams.
GAM TAM, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So if you're an FCC fan, let Gerard handle this one. Try not to. I think, like, personally, I'm not going to be pushing it. I don't want to add to the pressure, because I feel like that could be a tactic. And again, no proof, but it just makes business sense, right?
I mean, we're fans. Our job is to give our GM hell. I'm joking. No, I think as Wes said, I think it's, we're being linked with the right players. So I think he would definitely make this.
The ambition is the thing I'm taking away most from all this.
All right, guys. Well, unless you guys have any other thoughts on that. So I would originally, talk about, some of the more pressing news about Frankie, but I think we need to talk a little bit about league things, and then we'll go into that later in the show when y'all can have a beer. So if you have a minute to go grab a beer, or we can have a vent session about what's going on with Frankie here in a couple minutes. But just a couple of news and notes, things that you guys might hear that I think would be good to touch on real quick. Our Sam Stachko reported from The Athletic reported about the league's new U22 rule, and I think this is something where you hear Alvo Barrial being linked to. You had a potentially U22 left winger that we'll touch on here in a minute being linked. But essentially, what's happening is Major League Soccer is focusing on bringing in young players and making it advantageous for teams. So, Clay, can you touch on a little bit about the report and how it might help?
Honestly, no. I have no idea what any of these initiatives are. I thought young DPs were also U22s. I thought they were the same thing. They are not. What I can take from all of this, from a very cursory surface level knowledge, is that it shows that MLS is putting more money into rosters.
Glad you read your rundown there, pal.
I was raging over Frankie Amaya all afternoon.
There
I went
you go.
A white rage, but white hot rage. Wow, that could have been wrong. Anyway, I do know that despite all the CBA talk that was happening over the last few weeks, it wasn't because owners didn't want to spend money. This U22 initiative is going to be a way for teams to further improve and to further, improve the salaries and get more young talent into the league, which is a good thing. This is a good thing to see. So just because the owners played hardball with the CBA doesn't mean they're not willing to improve the quality of players and get that into the league, which is a good sign.
Yeah, and it's of course about selling on as well. So kind of what Sam reported is players cannot turn 23 in the first season of their contract. Once tagged as a U22 initiative player, they can stay on that designation through age 25. Also, keyword that we'll talk about here with Frankie or Calvin later on, homegrowns and draftees are also eligible for this tag. Clubs can sign up to 3 players with a max budget charge of somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000. If you have questions on that, refer them to Ken Hetker or Brad Weigel. They'll give you a whole rundown on their budget tracker.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, no kidding, pal. You're not going to be on the show again for a while. And so why people are asking about this with Brenner is there's he's 20, why can't he fit into this designation? It's because your max salary charge has to be under 650 or whatever the max budget charges. I think some 615, 625,000 this year, whatever they do. But yeah, Boston, you have any thoughts? I know you love the young guys in this league.
No, it's a great initiative because it kind of gets lost. There hasn't been a big incentive to bring in players under 23, unless you're the Phillies or the New Yorks that already play, academy players. Everybody else in the league's kind of been bringing in talent that's already in their prime. And so this gives you an excuse to say Brenner isn't quite DP level and he's right around that $500,000 mark. FC Cincinnati can now go to Brazil, snag him at very little cap charge. Don't have to worry about buying him down with any kind of, game tame, whatever. It's just an easy fit to the roster at a low cost and doesn't really mess with the rest of your roster. So you've opened up the ability to go younger without penalizing teams, and that's always been the problem in Major League Soccer.
Well, I kind of like this, and Bill, I don't know if you have some says. Okay, all these clubs, like you spend a bunch of money, like LAFC spent a bunch of money, I think, on Brian Rodriguez, like 15 million or whatever to bring him in, and he didn't really perform that well in his time in LAFC, yet they'll still probably sell him on. This kind of, doesn't put these clubs in a huge hole. Okay, you can still bring a guy in for $4 million and only have a $200,000 cap charge versus a $600,000 cap charge.
Well, $4 million would be too much for the the U22, right? Or
No. You can spend as much as you want to bring the guy in, but paying him.
Yeah, the transfer fee and the salaries are different.
Yeah, it's like Ariel.
Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying.
Sure.
Yep. Exactly. Well, I mean, coming back around to it, I mean, I agree with you in that, and I think people. They criticize MLS a lot for having extremely complicated rosters and budgets and all this stuff, and the ZAMs and the GAMs and the, TAMs and the MAMs and the whatever the hex. So I understand, and this adds more complication. We've just added another layer. But I think what it comes down to is that if you really look at this, there's always a reason why MLS has made a change like this, right? What are they trying to accomplish? And I think this is what you're leading to a little bit. Brian, which is it's a sort of a sweet spot, right? It's giving a high level young player into MLS because MLS is now targeting that level of player, saying we don't necessarily want to be a retirement league. We don't want to have, these old European guys coming back when they're 35 or whatever and drawing tickets. We don't need that anymore. We're fiscally sound. We're drawing, people to our games. What we need is exciting young players that up the level of the league and allow us to sell on, right? We acknowledge that there is leagues beyond us. How can we benefit financially? And that's to bring in these young talents to take them to the next level, to make a good product on the field for our fans, and then to sell them at a profit. And all these rules that they create, I know they're complicated, but it's all about incentivizing the owners, right? So you have this fixed pot. You can only get so big, and that's your roster cap. And what we do is we say, well, it would normally take this much of the pot, but we're going to allow you to only use like a third of that, right? And then the owner can put in extra money, and it allows the owners who have sort of that broader vision. They want to be bigger. They want to be better. They'll look for these three players and they'll go for them because they can actually spend more money than they're allowed to spend. And it allows that roster to actually be bigger than MLS's default roster size. And that's what, DPs are about, young DPs are about, and the U22 as well. It's about owners who wish to spend that money and wish to have a better product to be able to focus in the areas MLS wants us to focus in this case, youth, and not, $10,000 players. I'm exaggerating. There's no $10,000 players, but higher quality ones.
Yeah. You'd rather have like MLS bring in, Alvaro Barreal than Jeff. I mean, than like Jeff Cameron, older guy, that's how I'd want my, a variety of reasons, would want the FC Cincinnati to bring in, those types of players. And, kind of what I said earlier is that at that low charge, you're not necessarily, they don't have to perform right away, whereas if you're on a DP, you're we need you to start justifying your roster spend in your roster spot. So stuff that you guys will be hearing more. This is more just to set up what's going to happen over the next month. I think it's best more of a the more you know.
Yep.
Some news that we saw: FC Cincinnati was linked to said with a Brazilian left winger out of Brazil, Leo Chu. FC Cincinnati offered $4 million for the player, but Grêmio, I guess, decided not to sell on that player. So again, there's the right mold, the right set of players that FC Cincinnati are going after, things that don't always leak out here, but came out of South America. So
I really like, by the way, this is off a little bit on a tangent, but I like what I'm seeing right now from the roster build standpoint, that we're focusing on the attacking four, right? We're looking at the 10s and the 7s and the 9s and things like that. But we're also looking at South America, right? And that's maybe my personal taste a little bit. I like European soccer. I have respect for European soccer. But when you talk about an exciting game to watch, I really like South Americans on the attacking four, the creativity that they show. You look into Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. That's not South America, I know, but that kind of area, and it's really fun to watch those players. And I think it's kind of interesting to see that we have a Dutch coach and we have a Dutch GM. There's obviously been a lot of criticism that we've been very focused in Europe, and suddenly now that we're trying to focus on scoring goals, we're looking to South America and we're pulling in Brazilian players and Argentinian players and people like that I think is going to make a really exciting and interesting team dynamic, to have that solid core behind them. And then I hope a very fluid, creative front four.
And you can tell they're looking for really young players.
Yep.
I mean, I think Podolski aside, and Papu, I guess, is on the older side, but as a 10, you probably want someone a little more established. But we're looking at guys like Lincoln, Brenner, this guy from Grêmio. I mean, these are guys in their young 20s. And it feels like for the first time, FC Cincinnati is roster building not just for today, but for tomorrow and for next year. I think after the first season, we kind of had Nightcap had to come in and kind of just clean house. And it was just sort of like plug and place wherever you can. It really starting to feel like we're thinking long term, not just getting guys in who can contribute, hopefully long term. And then, he sold this, Nightcap sold Brenner on this idea. Come here, show what you can do, give us a few good years, and then we're going to get you over to Europe where you want to go. And I think MLS needs to lean more into that. We've seen that with Tyler Adams and so on and so forth. So it's an exciting change in perspective I've seen from the roster build.
It's exciting till he does well, and then we have to let him go.
Then we have to sell him.
Hey, well, Cincinnati has some wins, so win-win.
Hopefully, and this is part of a bigger argument that we still have a fixed roster limit of guys that we have. Right now, without a Costa signed, we have 2 senior spots left, I believe. So, and that includes Franco in there, that includes Locadia in there. So it's a little malleable, but I mean, our week, we bring in, a U22 winger and a U22 center back or right back. And, in theory, we're kind of hamstrung now. So
I think only one of those is international. I think we don't have any more international spots besides one, I think.
I don't know.
If I've ever learned a lesson, it's never worry about international spots, because green cards magically come out of thin air. International spots can be bought.
I just bought an international spot for $175K. So
I've been caught in worrying before, like our first year in Major League Soccer, and no, never again will I worry about allocation spots. They work themselves out. Trust me.
You mean international spots, but
both.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's a lot of flux that happened in what Laurel said in her report on QueenCityPress.net, is that that Gerard's trying to have as many of the guys, many of the new players in when camp starts. I think the first week of March. So I think the tentative report date's like the 1st, and then they quarantine for 7 days, and then they put the training. There's
training
chains
camp
in there where you
start
can
March 8th.
Yeah,
but
you can
arrive March 1st to quarantine.
Yeah, so
you can actually quarantine ahead of that. I think there's some weird stuff.
You can, yes. So there's a lot of things. Go check out CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com as well. We have a lot of things on there. So yeah, I think there's definitely going to be changes. There's going to be a lot of questions with this roster build. So go check it out, and we'll have as much information as we can there. So, guys, it's that time of the show where I want to give a big shout out to our partners. Thank you to Tim Bronsel, to Tom Rose, Matt Adamchick, Mike Hudson, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Coling, Tara Mullins, Riley Stephen Burke, and Melissa Bengal. Thank you so much for your support. And to learn more on how you can support CST, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, guys, this is what I was hitting at the top of the show. It's time to get your favorite drink. Got my bourbon here.
Pour a stiff one.
Pour a stiff one. So let's talk. I know this is what we were all kind of surprised last week when it came out. We had heard some rumblings, back I think around the 1st of February about some trades. Essentially, Frankie Amaya might be traded for about $1 million plus GAM to a couple teams in Major League Soccer. Of course, FC Cincinnati said no to that. And then lo and behold, is it Thursday? What's up with Thursdays in February, by the way, with news in FC Cincinnati? Jeff Reuter and Paul Tenorio reported that Amaya submitted a trade request to FC Cincinnati to, leave the club. And in his quote, in the press release to the Athletic, says, "I've given everything to Cincinnati and the fans over the last 2 years, and I will always be grateful for their support and kindness. During this offseason, I've realized that the club doesn't have the same level of commitment to me, so I have asked the club to trade me, as I don't feel my goals can be achieved in Cincinnati." So, as I said, he apparently had some trades out there. FC Cincinnati said no, and then this happens. So, I'm going to start off with Boston here. What was your initial reaction when you saw this report?
It hurts, right? I mean, I think the first thing is you are our new Jimmy. What are you doing, buddy? It would be like Jimmy McLaughlin saying, "I don't want to play in Cincinnati." Cincinnati's been behind him. It stings a little bit, and then the business side of me kicks in, and you see what he's doing. No one, especially us fans, like being in last place 2 years in a row. It stinks. It stinks if you're a player. It stinks if you're a fan. It stinks if you're in ownership, because you're taking all the heat. I get it. I get it. I see that, if you follow the timeline, I think you can kind of build a picture. Frankie is worried about his career. He's coming into the last year without an option. He's got an option, club option, but theoretically the last year of his contract, he's been on a last place team twice. He knows he has value now. Is probably talking with his agent, and he asked for a trade. FC Cincinnati promises they'll bring in players, just following the club statements timeline. And Frankie sees, that report that says teams have come, and they have come asking, whether that was his agent digging around or whether those were genuine requests. Either way, somebody came to FC Cincinnati and said, "We want Frankie Amaya." So you see that way out. You no longer have to be a part of a project that's building its way out of a hole. You can maybe theoretically bail and jump ship to the sure thing. And so I think this is Frankie playing the only card he has, because he's under contract. So it's risky. The fans' opinion will turn. If you're his teammate, I think you're a little bit hurt, because
he said that this team wasn't good enough, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
you told your teammates publicly, "I don't think this is worth it. You're not good enough to win."
It's a tough card.
Yeah.
I mean, if FC Cincinnati sticks to their guns, which I like that they're keeping him. If they do that, then Frankie, he's got a rough patch for a couple months. I mean, winning solves everything. So they start winning, I think he'll be okay. But yeah, I think those first couple games, I mean, in a way, he's lucky there's no fans yet.
Yeah, he might get, if this
announcement.
had happened right before a game, I bet he'd be booed at the next
Yeah.
game.
So I know Coach Michael Lahoud wanted to be on tonight, but I think they're having some power issues down in Texas, and
I hope everyone down there is safe.
they had more snow than we did, apparently. So yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a couple things in here, and I'm going to go to Bill, and then Clay, you can do your piece. I was really struck by the tone of this message. I, and then I can't feel my goals can be achieved. And
Not committed to me.
yeah. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, if we come back a little bit of what Boston was saying and echo that, this was a player who I think the fans really embraced in a very personal way. I mean, as we get to MLS, it gets harder sometimes to connect with the players. We don't get as much contact time with them. There's a lot of contractual issues behind that. And Frankie was a player that the fans really connected with, right? He was young. He was a little nervous when he got here. He goes out there and he works. I mean, he is a very Midwestern, hardworking type of attitude, and people identify with that. So to see him giving his all, which he says in his statement, I gave my all, whatever. I think people saw that as well, and they recognized that, and they identified with it, and they appreciated that. For him to then turn around and sort of dash everybody's maybe vision of who he was, right? That he was somebody who cared about the club and cared about the crest and cared about the team, and cared about the fans. Then it becomes, me, I, and it's like, oh, you're just here because you want money, and it's not so, you want to win, and here we were thinking that you were literally the golden child, the building blocks of what would be a great team someday in the future, and you would be like the core of that, right? And I think a lot of people realize that maybe they had a misconception of who Frankie was, and I think that's disappointing for a lot of people.
So I'm going to touch on this a little bit. Sorry, Clay.
No, go ahead.
People have been speculating: is it where he wants to play, or is it cash money? I think it's cash money. Even though what you get into, sign a GA deal. But he's been pumped up by Gerard, and like every press release, like, oh, Frankie, you're doing so great. He's building block, off season, all these great pieces in Frankie Amaya. Do you think some of that might have to play into his grandiose vision of himself, or his agent's grandiose vision of himself?
I think 100%. I mean, if he thinks he's a 10, and that's what he should be, I think he has to be realistic to realize that he has not achieved that goal. He certainly cannot sit back and say, I am a phenomenal 10. We tried that. And I mean, he wasn't a phenomenal 10. He is a good player, right? He is, let's be fair. He has not really broken into the U.S. national team. He's had a couple little looks.
He's had some bad luck there too. He got
the COVID issue would have been one chance, but he got overlooked in the past. But he's not that player, right? So it's got to be about money, right? And in my mind, sorry, but he was a college student who looked promising. But why was he so exciting? It wasn't just because he looked promising. It was because he was a generation Adidas player. I mean, those contracts are so freaking good. It's almost impossible for a club to walk away from one if you think you got a halfway decent player, because they don't take a spot in your senior roster. They don't affect your roster cap in any way. They actually get paid pretty well, but it doesn't affect the growth of the team. So teams take these players on knowing that they have 3 years of a GA player. For him to take advantage of that, to get onto the field for 2 years in MLS, to get the chances he got in Cincinnati, to play as much as he did, and then to think that somehow he should just somehow skip that third year and get a bunch of money, too bad. And honestly, I think he's he's having his argument with the wrong people, and maybe his agent's a little naive. But FC Cincinnati isn't. It's not his contract. I mean, it's not Cincinnati's contract, right? You sign a contract with MLS. So, if he's unhappy with the fact that he signed a 3-year Generation Adidas contract with MLS, that's for him to discuss with MLS. And in a year, he could become a free agent, and Cincinnati could pick him up and offer him a senior position contract. But right now, MLS and him have an agreement. So,
and things do break in sports sometimes. Clay, I see you shaking over there. I'm going to put the Clay clock on.
It took a lot of chutzpah, but it was also an incredibly desperate move. I think Boston was right. And another about this is basically the last card he had to play, was to publicly confirm that he asked for this trade. I think the one piece of this that we're missing as a 20-year-old kid is probably his family and his homesickness, which he hasn't been shy about necessarily. LAFC approached FC Cincinnati on that night of the Super Draft in 2019 with the trade offer to make him a hometown homegrown. We didn't take it. I'm happy that we did, as FCC did, because he's been great since in many ways. And 2020 was tough for a lot of people. 2021 is going to continue to be very tough for a lot of people. He's away from home. He's not seeing his family. He probably got wind either through the team or through his agents or whatever that maybe LAFC was calling again or the Galaxy was calling again. I don't know. But I think that's a part of this that we're missing. I'm not excusing this move. I think it's incredibly foolish. Like I said, I almost respect how much chutzpah it took to publicly confirm a trade request, but he's not Deshaun Watson. He's not Anthony Davis. He's not these guys. You don't get to, in the third year of your rookie deal, your leverage is almost nothing. And now you potentially made FC Cincinnati's job of trading you even harder, because the teams that would trade for him are going to say, like, well, we know he wants to leave, so we don't maybe. Now, FCC still has all the leverage here. But personally, I don't know how. Does he not show up? Does he show up to training? How does Jaap Stam deal with this? I have so many questions about, do we freeze him out? Does he try to help play him through it? This feels like so many potential ways this could get worse. If I'm Nijkamp, I am trading him. Why bring him into camp now? You're going to have him show up with his teammates and say, yeah, guys, I didn't believe in you. Let's do a rondo. What? No. What is Jow? What is Harris Medunjanin supposed to look at this kid who he's been taken under his wing, and maybe there is a sense of empathy and camaraderie that, they understand where he's coming from. But even then, that's another potential issue, because then the team is looking around going like, well, he wants to leave. Why aren't you letting him leave? There's so many ways this gets worse before it gets better. And if you can get $1 million in GAM, heck, take it and get Acosta or get Pitti, guys who can play the 10 and can play it well. I'm not saying Frankie's a bad player, but he can play the number 10 at UCLA. He couldn't play it in MLS so far.
Do you know who's really happy about this? I'll tell you who's really happy about
Alan Cruz.
Cruz,
my man,
and Makocho.
My man. Look, because Alan Cruz is the better player than you, and you're asking for the trade?
Listen.
He should be starting anyway.
You said 10, right? In my mind, Amaya is not a 10. I mean, we're going to bring in a 10, and whoever that 10 is that's who's going to lock in that spot. Frankie is a decent second, probably, just like he was last year when we realized Siem de Jong wasn't getting it done for us, right? We brought him out and tried it, but he wasn't there either. So we're going to have a 10. And then we've got basically 4 players right now sitting in the 6-8 role, and that's Makocho, Medunjanin, Cruz, and Amaya. And those other 3 are sitting there going, oh, Stanko. Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Right.
So we got 5, right? And those 4 are sitting there thinking, heck yeah, keep talking, dude. Mm-hmm. Because, the more you upset the coach and the more you upset the fans and whatever, the more chance we get on the field.
So listeners, if you're on, I'd like to see if you could weigh in here. If you could just reply like you're going to welcome him back with open arms, or do you want his butt sent packing? So if you can respond in the comments, I want to see what the initial reaction is. Welcome him back, send him packing. So love to see that.
Can you be like me and in the middle there? Because I don't want to trade him. I absolutely don't want to trade him. I think his club deal is too good for FC Cincinnati to pass up, unless some team actually comes in with $1 million. But I'm talking a real $1 million, not this split 2022, 2021
or incentives and stuff
or
like
incentives. Frankie he's young. He's not even hit his prime yet, which is why he looks good for us, right? Is that
that's the value? Is that the potential is still unknown to an extent. His ceiling is to be determined.
If you sell him, you have to bring in somebody who's going to most likely be on a senior contract, so that hurts. And then
you got to replace him. There's all kinds
salary
of
cap hits,
flaws with the deal with selling him. I agree, 100%.
Yep, he's not on the senior roster. He doesn't affect our salary cap. Anybody replace him at this point is not going to be GA or something, and they're going to. It's a completely different dynamic. It basically getting rid of him almost makes it impossible for us to grow the team the way we're probably trying to grow it now. Or we still want a 10 and a winger and a center back. How do we bring in those three and get rid of Amaya?
The only reason I'm so comfortable trading him is because Alan Cruz is sitting right there. 2020 has messed up with our sense of time and perception and memory. It's hard to remember March 1st, 2020, Alan Cruz scored in the season opener at Red Bull, looking like he was just going to continue his run from 2019. Then the pandemic hits, and then we're out for months, and then he's injured, and he's not fit, and then Stam is playing him as a second striker, which is like Alan Koch playing him as a right midfield level stupidity. Alan Cruz earned that DP contract. Now, he's barely a DP, so you might want to buy him down to open up some space, but he's the better midfielder right now. And the reason I feel so comfortable just saying, all right, Frankie, like you don't want to be here. You think you're better than us. Fine. We don't want you in this locker room is because Alan Cruz, if you can get Alan Cruz back to where he can play, I think he's a better fit as a free 8, as coach would talk about, next to Camo and behind, a number 10, which you can get, as Bill was mentioning, with the money you would trade Frankie for.
Mm-hmm. Why not a hybrid version? Why not sit Frankie for 2 games and play Alan Cruz and see if your dreams show up, and then you could always trade him later. He still has value mid-season, summer window.
FC Cincinnati has all the leverage. They can wait as long as they want. I just, freezing him out and putting him in the doghouse all season is not going to make him want to stay more. No.
Well, it doesn't matter what he wants.
I'm going to read. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to read some of the responses on here. So I see from Corner Gordo, not a chance. Trade him. William Hughes, open arms because I just bought his kit.
Oh man,
there's going to be some kit burning videos if this happens.
Did I knock Bill out there? Calvin Brandt, I have his jersey. I'm kind of hurt. I will have trouble accepting him back. Mm-hmm. Alex Legg doesn't want to be here. Get rid of him. I like this one. Kind of cracked me up. AJ Snoop Dogg, get him out. His ego is too big. That is something. Lane Valiayo, I wouldn't get mad at him. He sees an opportunity to go home, and that's okay. If we can get a good deal, trade him, but I don't think he will tank if he stays. Finally, well, there's quite a bit more, but Jeff Tebbets, don't deal Frankie. Dealing him would open the floodgates for players who want to play wherever they want to play. I think that's a good point, Jeff. Is that's my worry is if FC Cincinnati cave, what does that do? If something
what's
happens?
The precedent there? Yeah.
I think there's more to this than just that, though, because Frankie talks about, maybe it is the position thing, but the other part is like, oh, this team isn't good enough. They're not committed to my goals or something, which might be about the 10. But if that's about the quality of the team, FC Cincinnati is answering those charges. He has no leg to stand on in that argument. He can't say the team isn't improving because at least on paper they're trying. Whether or not that works out, we'll see. But I don't buy this excuse. That's why I think there's more to this. If it's just about the team not being good, well, that could easily change. And he's making this request public days after they sign a new DP. I think there's more to this than just the team's not good enough.
I think there could be layers upon layers upon layers going on here of why he's making this public and what's going on. But I'm with Jeff 100%. I think I think to have any player come out publicly like that and try to force the hand of the club can't allow players to start having these public types of discussions to make the decisions for them.
It never ends well when a player demands a trade request publicly and they stay at the
if you're a
team.
mid,
It does not end well. You look at every other sport in North America; it just doesn't work.
if you're a mid-table team, like, and you can let the player, you can afford to let the unhappy player walk. I agree. I'm 100% on board. You let him walk. FC Cincinnati just has no leeway. They have to keep their best players. And if Frankie Amaya is a starting 11 player, you can't let him walk. You can't let him walk in a rebuilding club. You just can't.
He was a starting 11 player. Is he now? That's another good question.
William Hughes, none of his argument makes sense unless he has delusions of number 10 grandeur. As a guy who was in the bottom 8 or 9% of positive passes in the league among midfielders. Yeah, I mean, we have a chart. I don't know if Ken, maybe we can ask Ken to release it. That showed him among all Major League Soccer midfielders, and while he did have a high high percentage of completed passes, I mean, it was minuscule going forward as backwards. So Bruce Fox sent him to Sao Paulo for the first half of the season. I like it. All right, let's put a bow on Frankie. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot more to talk about this. We're running late here. The thing that kills me is that the positive vibes that we had felt so good, and that we were, things are gonna fall. Like Papu, that was awesome. There's a lot of talk about Papu, and then you had all these other moves and Brenner, and everything felt good. Like we were going the right direction, past couple weeks at least. And then this comes out and you're like, oh, here we go. FC Cincinnati's FC Cincinnati. So is what it is. All right. Before we get into our final thoughts here, a couple things. We got a season. It's going to start the weekend of April 17th now. So have that in mind that everything's pushed back here a couple weeks. But still, hey, we're getting closer to seeing soccer in Cincinnati in the West End Stadium. It appears that FC Cincinnati is going to open up the West End Stadium in the first week of May for a couple other small events, with hopefully the first Major League Soccer match at home the maybe third week of May, mid-May, they're saying, but media day at the stadium's May 12th. So sometime I would assume after May 12th. So guys are going to be on the road for the first half, or for the first month. The first month of the season, which, could be 5, 6, how many games, with congestion. So it's going to be interesting to see how the guys regroup with that. But, it looks like we're getting closer. Bill, you ready to drum in that stadium?
I am. I got to do a little bit of exercising and work off some of my COVID 50 or 40 or something.
We haven't
really
had
bad.
a home game in Cincinnati since September 2019.
It's been a long time. I definitely am going to have to work some cardio and get used to carrying. Fortunately, I don't carry a bass drum. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
That march is going to hurt our legs a little bit more next time.
Yeah, it will. But it's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. So,
yeah, I know. I know Boston Razzle Dazzle's ready to christen the club seats.
Shoot, I'm knocking down doors trying to get my shot so I can go as soon as I can. It's tough going in Ohio, man. Trying to get that shot yet. But I think the closer we get to summer, the more widespread it gets. So I'm positive about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm positive about that, not COVID. I don't want to be positive, so
yeah,
I won't go till I have to go.
I actually like the delay in the stadium. I know people are anxious to get the stadium open, and of course, I'm sure Jeff and the club would like to have it open.
I think it works out well, right?
On open day. I agree. Having about a month extra only works in our benefit to have a little extra time. So keep the vaccines rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, guys, great fun show. I appreciate you guys tuning in. The engagement on the chat rooms was wonderful. So we appreciate doing that. I'm sure Superling, Nicholas J. Superling will be back next week with the show. But it's great to be here, and I appreciate you guys taking the time. And I know, this is a challenging, moment for CST. We had, that pity story came out a couple weeks ago, and just like the snow, something can happen at the last minute to derail it. So, unfortunately, we don't try to be wrong to you guys. So, at least on my side, my end, I apologize for the thing not happening, but we truly act when we're very confident something's going to happen, and we will do our best to find out and give you an answer with what happened with PT and with Al Nassar. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get into our final thoughts on the evening. Clay, then we'll go to Bill in Boston.
Well, 1A, real quick, get your tickets to the Alan Cruz hype train because it's going full steam ahead in 2021. Join me now while you still can before I laugh at you when he proves us all wrong. But my actual final thought, I don't want to get too somber, but it's been a minute since I've been on the show, and I'd say like I'm a member of this industry, but the sports media has lost a couple great reporters lately. Pedro Gomez from ESPN and Therese Paylor of Yahoo Sports. I remember growing up, and Pedro Gomez was always one of my favorite baseball writers and reporters. And I can't help but think about his son, who's in the Red Sox organization as a pitcher. And we keep losing some really great heroes this last year and this year. And they're just Therese Paylor and Pedro, and among so many others, but them in particular, with their passing kind of made me think about the kind of people who've inspired me to finally get to write and to get on this website and to be on this show. So I just hope we can honor them, and I hope their memories are a blessing. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about Pedro and Perez.
All right. Pretty good stuff there. Sorry, I got a note that my daughter might be coming in the room. Bill.
It's better than a cat, I guess. Okay, sorry. Last time I was on, it was a cat that was breaking in the room while I was talking. So yeah, I'm not going to get quite as somber as Clay, but I'm also going to maybe tone down a little bit for the end here. Reflecting just, for myself a little bit as we're getting closer to the season kicking off. We're 2 months from opening day roughly, and then probably 3 months from our first home game. It's around the corner. So we have a shiny new stadium being built. A lot of us probably watch the cams way too much and are getting really excited about it. Grass growing and heat lamps and everything else that's going on there. So yeah, it's great and exciting. Just want people to maybe step back a little bit and not forget that, we are in the middle of a pandemic, that this is not the greatest time in the world to be starting a soccer season and a new stadium. And that, we've gone through this immensely long process of season ticket holders selecting their seats and figuring out where they can sit and selling out the club section and all these other things. And the reality is, let's just put it in our heads, guys. We're not going to probably get into our seats for the home opener, right? I mean, there will be people at games, but there will be, right? Many of us will choose not to go for one reason or another. Many people will want to go. There will probably be more people wanting to go than there will be seats because capacity is going to be determined by Ohio, but it'll be, 25 to 50% probably at best would be my guess. So you're looking at like 8 to 14,000 or somewhere in that range. There's going to be more people than that wanting to go. And that means that they're probably going to have to do what they did last year and refund tickets on games at this point and let us buy them for the ones who choose to buy. So I'm just trying to plant that in everybody's heads, because that's the only thing I see working is a kind of a repeat of what we did with Nippert for 2020. Hopefully not for the entire season. Maybe we can actually get back to, at some point where we can do full capacity, and that would be a great thing because it would mean that the pandemic is under control. But certainly that's not going to be in May. So kind of get in your head that it's not going to be 26,000 people in a brand new stadium, and it may not be you. And try to be fair with the club and realize that they're going to do the best they can. Obviously, they want everyone there. They would love to have everybody there because they want money. But and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a business, guys. But the reality is that they want the stadium full and they want it to be exciting. But they're going to do the best they can too, and they're going to have to try to figure this out. So, but yeah, everyone hang in there, and let's be happy the soccer's back, and watch it in whatever capacity we can when it gets here, and try to work together to have fun about it.
For the low price of $250 a head, I can make sure you're one of those people in the FC Cincinnati stadium.
Yeah, I hope not.
Oh, sorry. I was promoting my side business, guys.
Yeah.
But
Wait,
anyway.
is that a lawyer from FC Cincinnati calling me right now?
Oh, so I'm transitioning into my own final thought, which is I'm excited soccer season's coming back. I'm excited CST's kicking back off. I mean, December, I think we usually take a break in December, and then you're just now starting to see the rollout again. You know, the show's back every week. Talking Tactics is cranking back up. Good episode this week with Michael Lahoud, and then soon, very soon, your favorite show, March to Match Day, will be back on the air. And I'm not sure why it's your favorite, but you know, you guys tune in. You know, this show only gets 1/4 of the views of March to Match Day. I've never been able to figure out why. But tune in. We'll be breaking down all next year's games. So,
well, I do love doing this, and you know, hopefully we won't have the I guess the rapidity of games that we had to deal with last year and the watch-alongs, and hopefully we don't get burnt out. But I'm just excited it's coming back close. So we're getting real close to seeing our boys play.
As long as we only play Columbus.
Yeah.
As long as we only play Columbus twice.
Yes.
We were right there.
Yeah, Clay and I.
Two great minds think alike.
we got Justin Hoyt in the back. We're waiting to bust him out for a bad day.
Hopefully we can wait till August before we play Columbus. So I'd love to open up the season with Nashville. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. As always, please like, rate, and review our show on Apple iTunes. Please, give us any comments if you have any questions or would like to drop us a line. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. As always, we can be reached on our social media platforms as well at Cincy Soccer Talk on Twitter and Cincinnati Soccer Talk on Facebook. So, for Clay, Bill, Boston, this is Brian Weigel signing off. And well, you won't watch your tackles this week. I'll let Nick do that, but be better to your friends and have a good week.